Hey everyone, Mr. The Fanboy here, back for another video, and this is my defense of Ring of Honor and TNA. I got the idea to do this video from this is another idea inspired by the Wrestling Roundtable, who did videos in 2007 and 2012 called State of TNA, where in 2007 they were criticizing TNA's product at the time, and in 2012 they were praising TNA's product. Well, this is my state of Ring of Honor and TNA in 2015. This video is also in response to all the negative comments towards Ring of Honor and especially TNA. I'm gonna start off with Ring of Honor. You got Ring of Honor. You got Ring of Honor, a product I used to hate, a promotion I used to hate. I loved aspects of Ring of Honor. I respected the talent and bookers, but I hated the promotion Ring of Honor. You talk about a promotion that's in its 10+ year history. They have not done really much of anything as far as growing their product and getting their name out there in the mainstream. They have done nothing. They've done nothing. They've made two giant steps. That was pay-per-view. That was pay-per-view. And and yeah, that's it. They made one giant step. They've not really made any oh yeah, and finally got a TV show. So two giant steps right there. Two giant steps right there. Every time Ring of Honor took a foot forward, they took 1 foot backwards. They took 1 foot backwards in their several year history. But when I took a break from Ring of Honor responded to all of my criticisms. Like I said, I was gonna do a video Ring of Honor, burying Ring of Honor, because not only was I sick of the product, I was sick of the fan base at the time overrating overrating Ring of Honor, Ring of Honor, and trying to force the product on people. I was gonna bury it, but you know what? When I came back and watched Ring of Honor, it's like they wanted me back as a viewer because they responded to every criticism I had. Every criticism I had, they responded to. One of the first criticisms I had towards Ring of Honor was one of the first criticisms I had towards Ring of Honor was one of the first criticisms I had towards Ring of Honor was what was it? What was my first criticism? Oh yeah, the venue. The venue. First off, when they came in here in 2002, they had this garbage high school gym. Awesome wrestling, but that gym they were in was just awful. Then they got a much better. Then they got a much better gym. They got a much better arena. But this right here, I later got sick of this too. This looked like they were in someone's garage, and now they have a new awesome arena. Now they have a new awesome arena with these lights, which makes them look like a modern day territory promotion instead of an independent promotion. Instead of an independent promotion. And then another thing I like, I criticize major promotions like WWE for repetitive set design, having the same sets pretty much every show. Ring of Honor, well, one of the more recent Ring of Honor tapings I saw, at one taping I saw they were in a ballroom, and one of the more recent tapings I saw they were at a baseball stadium where the Briscoes were fighting the Time Splitters, Koshida, and Alex Shelley, the Time Splitters. So what's his name? Man? Next is when Tyler Black and Kevin Steen were champions, Ring of Honor was so damn boring. Apart from anything featuring Austin Aries, Lance Storm, and pretty much like the other mid card, when Davey Richards, Kevin Steen, and Tyler Black were there, it was so damn boring. Now the Wolves, Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards, they're way better in TNA, way better when it comes to wrestling. They wrestle the wrestling style, and of course are much better on the mic And Kevin Steen, he's one of the only independent wrestlers who became better when they went to WWE, whereas most go to WWE and are like lamer there than they were, or are lamer on WWE than they were in the independents. Then you got what's the other woman's name? What's the other wrestler's name? What's the other wrestler's name? What's the other wrestler's name? I keep forgetting her. I keep forgetting his name. What's the other wrestler's name? Tyler Black. Tyler Black. Yeah, Tyler Black. Awesome in the ring, but he bored me on the mic. One of the things that made his promos good in Ring of Honor was they were real. He got to say his promos. They were organic. He got to come up with some of the stuff versus the scripted promos he has now in WWE. But anyway, he wasn't really that good on the mic, and guys like him and Steen only got the belts when all the top guys were leaving, and they were the last guys. And back at the time when Kevin Steen was champion, you had mostly WWE fans saying it's that Ring of Honor. Oh, when WWE scoops up Kevin Steen, Ring of Honor will be going out of business. Ring of Honor is so much better without those guys. The Ring of Honor roster today is way better than the roster they've had in the past. Guys like ACH, Moose, one of my all-time favorites from NWA Wildside and Anarchy, Caprice Ice Coleman. You got Cedric Alexander, Dalton Castle, Adam Cole, Matt Taven, um, the Red Dragon tag team, Donovan Dijak, the Bloodbound Warriors, Cheeseburger, um, Silas Young, Silas Young, Adam Page, and of course, old favorites like the Briscoe brothers, Jay Lethal, and Roderick Strong, and Matt Sydal. So Ring of Honor. Then you got then another thing I like about Ring of Honor, they have the international partnerships with companies like New Japan. So you got AJ Styles, Young Bucks, and the rest of the Bullet Club featured in Ring of Honor. And other awesome Japanese wrestlers like Takai Watanabe. I think that's his name. Um, yeah. So yeah, even the Time Splitters, Alex Shelley and Kushida were on one episode of what's his name. Then you have old time TNA wrestlers like Kazarian, Daniels, and Sabin, The Addiction. So Ring of Honor is now the product. Watch, that roster alone draws them to the program. Don't even care about most of the angles that are going on there. Most of the angles and storylines going on there. That roster alone draws me to Ring of Honor. Makes me want to watch Ring of Honor, and would even order some of these pay-per-views if my money wasn't dedicated to other things. So you got Ring of Honor, you got so Ring of Honor pretty much did all of this stuff to turn the product around. The next thing I like about Ring of Honor is once again, I didn't even ask for this, especially not Jay Lethal, African American ROH heavyweight champion. I didn't even add, once again, African Americans, that's not your top demographic, so I didn't expect them to make an African American their world heavyweight champion, especially not Jay Lethal, whom I've always liked Jay Lethal. But I never really saw him as World Heavyweight Championship material. I supported him as World Heavyweight Championship material because he's legit, but he's just like Shelton Benjamin and Cesaro. Awesome in the ring, but they bore the living piss out of me on the mic. Jay Lethal, outside of the Macho Man gimmick, bores the Black Machismo Macho Man gimmick, bores the piss out of me on the mic. So, he's improved. He's improved his mic skills. He actually talks and looks like a champion. Looks like a champion. And yeah, and another thing I like is no stereotypical gimmicks for our black wrestlers. All the African American wrestlers are straight badasses. You got ACH. awesome badass wrestler. Moose, another powerhouse wrestler. He's a replacement for. There was another independent wrestler named Rashid Brown, who also wrestled as Skull Squisher Brown in the National Wrestling Alliance, who used to be on Ring of Honor. I consider Moose to be a replacement of him, and Moose is one of the better football player turned wrestlers. Moose, who's just a powerhouse. Then you got Cedric Alexander, who was an awesome tag team partner to Caprice Ice Coleman, and now is coming to his own as an awesome cocky heel. And you got Caprice Ice Coleman, who I saw here in Georgia for Wildside, NWA Wildside, and Anarchy. Like I said, I love the way African American wrestlers are featured on the program, and and next, the gimmicks. I love every wrestler has a unique character. Every wrestler, one of the things Ring of Honor used to be criticized for. Actually, they've always had this. They just been t- turning it down in more recent times. But every wrestler has a gimmick or a character. Every wrestler has a unique gimmick or a character. Not everyone looks the same. And you have wrestlers of all shapes and sizes. And next, good feuds and angles. Even though I really don't care much for those good feuds and angles, the build up to these matches is awesome and is must see TV. And when I see how awesome Ring of Honor is and how much they improve their product, it makes me wish that a bigger channel would have got a hold of them at some point. A bigger channel instead of Destination America would have got a bigger hold, would have got a hold of them, and wish they got a better channel than Destination America. I appreciate what Destination America and what I appreciate what Destination America has done for Ring of Honor and TNA, but this channel sucks. Both of these shows get lesser viewers than in previous shows. Like Off the Ropes show said, the buzz for these promotions is at an all-time low. Nobody really cares. And right now, when they're at their best, they're way better now than they were when Steen and what's his name were champion. I even like them now better than the earlier days when you had when you had all the other guys on the what you consider the glory days of Ring of Honor with guys like CM Punk there. Um, yeah. So yeah, ROH is like so much better now. Um, so you talk about Ring of Honor, a promotion that pretty much responded to every criticism I had. Then you got well yeah, that was Ring of Honor. Now it's time for TNA. TNA TNA gets more hate, especially now. It gets more hate. Most of it is from the WWE. Most of it is from biased WWE fanboys, and the other ones is from fanboys who missed the old TNA. I don't really talk much about these. I don't really talk much about these fanboys anymore because I kind of understand them. In my opinion, TNA was at its best from 2002 to 2006. Anything after that, I really don't like. Even though there were several good wrestlers, matches, and shows and storylines, I really don't like anything after 2006. Anything after 2006. But TNA currently, from 2013, in my opinion, till now, especially in 2015, is TNA has been much better in terms of product, wrestlers, and all that stuff. All that stuff, and I'm going to talk about why TNA is better now than it has been in recent years. Like I said, TNA was at its best from 2002 to 2006. I really wish TNA would have kept the NWA TNA era, the days when they were in the Asylum and the early days in the Impact Zone, the FSN era. We wish TNA would have kept that era. That era of TNA, when they were part of the NWA, when they were trying to make TNA wrestling look like a real sport. I really wish they would have kept that TNA instead of in 2007 they started trying to become sports entertainment by adding various segments, not focusing on wrestling, adding various segments, not focusing on. Sorry, nose. kind of sick today. Focusing on various segments that are non-wrestling and pushing former WWE stars like Christian, like guys like Christian, Kurt Angle, Kevin Nash, and people like that. People like that. I really like the earlier days where you had more where you were building the company around young guys. We were coming around young guys, and I really wish TNA would have kept that. And they're starting to get back to that now. They're starting to get back to that now. But I really wish they would have kept that earlier, back when they were the new face of professional wrestling. That was their original slogan. That was my favorite slogan. I thought that was much better than cross the line, we are wrestling, and and um and I love the branding of the Impact Wrestling now. But like I said, that was their best slogan. We are the new face of wrestling, and I wish they would have kept with that. And I also wish AJ Styles and Joe are cool, but I really wish they would have built TNA around Monty Brown. I really wish that Monty Brown, Chris Harris, Sonny Siaki, Elix Skipper, Hernandez, Apollo, and people like that. I really wish they would have built TNA around these guys. I really wish they would have built TNA around these guys. I'm not saying don't push guys like AJ Styles and Joe, but stop pretending that those guys were the number one wrestlers in TNA. That's one thing I'm really getting sick of. Really getting sick of with TNA. We should have pushed these guys because I blame TNA for not turning Joe into a household name. I think it's a joke that he's not the biggest star in wrestling, but at the same time, half of it is Samoa Joe's fault because when a casual viewer looks at Samoa Joe, even though he is real, even though he is legit, he doesn't look it. He looks like he's just an ordinary. He looks like when people his size, his weight is actually the problem. When people look at Joe, they'll probably say, "Who the hell is this fat ass?" And unlike other big wrestlers like the late Bam Bam Bigelow, Bully Ray, and Balls Mahoney, unlike other big wrestlers like that, he doesn't cover his fat. He doesn't cover his fat. He lets it all hang out. He doesn't wear a shirt. He wears a shirt now, but he didn't back then. He didn't back then. And people, like I said, he looks like a big fat jobber. That to the casual viewer, that's what Samoa Joe would look like. That's what Samoa Joe looked like. AJ Styles, he's also legit. Problem is he doesn't look it, and nothing about AJ Styles appeals to the mainstream, which is why I wish they would have pushed Monty Brown, for that strong African American audience, and then he was legit with the football background. Then of course you got Sonny Siaki, who this guy he was pretty much TNA's version of The Rock, except he distinguished himself from The Rock by being more about in the ring than what he can do on the mic. He also could have brought in that strong African American and Samoan audience. Um, you got Apollo, and they later fired this guy because he had some steroids here. But the late Hector Garza, these guys could have been real good, and Shocker too, who came in later. These guys could have been real good for the strong Hispanic audience. You could have pushed Hector Garza and Apollo as like main eventers for that strong Hispanic audience. Same with when you got Hernandez and Homicide, especially when you got Hernandez and later. Yeah, then of course Elix Skipper, he's another guy. He's another guy who, once again, he was just like AJ Styles and Joe, the Elix Skipper, who was criminally underrated. This guy could have been this guy could have brought in that strong. What's his name? He doesn't look believable. He doesn't look believable, but he's more believable than AJ. He was more charismatic than AJ, and in the ring, he was probably a better fighter because of his martial arts background. So he could have been a big star, but all of these wrestlers, as soon as Christian hit the roster, as soon as guys like Christian and Kevin Nash hit the roster, they started pushing former WWE stars over the guys who pretty much helped build TNA, and that's kind of ruined TNA's reputation for a while now. That was in 2007. That was long before Hogan and Bischoff stepped foot in TNA. That was long before they stepped foot in TNA. The problems I talk about with TNA go back to 2007, man, and they're now just starting to fix that now, most recently. But like I said, they could have built TNA around all of those guys. And Chris Harris, they chose James Storm because James Storm stayed loyal to the company and stayed. But Chris Harris, in my opinion, was much better than Chris Harris at least on the mic was much better than James Storm, and he could have brought in that old southern old school southern audience who used to watch promotions like Jim Crockett promotions, AWA and promotions like that. That really old school southern crowd. That's who guys like Chris Harris could have brought in. Could have brought in. So like I said, I really wish they would have built TNA around those guys instead of former WWE guys, and of course guys like who else guys like AJ Styles and Joe, who of course later left TNA, and this is for all the people who criticize TNA for not re-signing these guys. First of all, AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. TNA has had these guys for how long, and neither one of them has ever drawn anything. I can still blame TNA for not turning them into the stars they are, but half of it is still their fault for not drawing. It's still their fault for not drawing. So yes, TNA has had these guys for several years, and none of them has drawn anything, and none of them has drawn anything. Then next is AJ Styles. As sad as it was to see AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, Kazarian, Hernandez, and all of these guys, leave TNA. As sad as it was, and Austin Aries, as sad as it was to see all these guys leave TNA, as one person from the Wrestling Round Table said back in 2012 when the Wrestling Round Table did their State of TNA, as sad as that was, these guys were old. All these guys are in their late 30s, approaching 40. These are wrestlers from 2002. These are stars from 2002. You cannot live off the same roster for like ever. You need you need younger guys too. You need new faces, which we're starting to see most recently in 2012. Like one guy said, when TNA's product was at its best, it was good. The product was good and all. But it was wrestlers from 2002. It was wrestlers from the early 2000s feature. There were hardly any any real new names. None of those gut check guys were really ready. So you're now starting to see younger new faces like Rockstar Spud, Mandrews, Drew Galloway, EC3, Eli Drake, Crimson, whenever he's there, who really needs to return full time. Aiden O'Shea, Crazy Steve, Andrew Everett, that X Division wrestler who debuted at Bound for Glory, who else? Who else? Oh yeah, Mika, also from the Rising. Mahabali Shira from Ring God King. and Grotto, and so yeah, you need like new faces. You need some new faces, and it's still good to have the some of the old familiar names around, like Matt Hardy, Bobby Lashley, Kurt Angle, and and those guys. And for people who complain about Kenny King leaving, okay, I'm gonna come clean with everyone. Kenny King, when he first came to TNA, I did not like Kenny King. I liked Kenny King in Ring of Honor, and I hated how Kenny King left Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor, Ring of Honor made him and Rhett Titus the tag team champions, and and Kenny on a handshake said on a handshake and Kenny King's promise on a handshake that he wouldn't leave Ring of Honor. He left Ring of Honor and quickly tried to go to TNA, and I didn't like it. I saw this as him riding Austin Aries' coattails and TNA pandering to the Ring of Honor fanboys. 2012 was when they were really pandering to the Ring of Honor fanboys, pandering to the Ring, which I didn't like, which I didn't like. So Kenny King came to TNA, but however, Kenny King, he, in my opinion, he supposedly earned his spot. For me, he earned my respect and he earned his spot when he put on those awesome matches with RVD, York, Chris Sabin, Low Key, and many more. Kenny King had earned his spot, but in my opinion, he was just riding Austin Aries, MVPs, and Low Key's coattails with that beatdown clan nonsense. He was just riding their coattails. Even Jim Cornette, you can find it on here where Jim Cornette says Kenny King is a lying sack of you know what. Here on here on YouTube, you can find a video where Jim Cornette buries Kenny King, where Jim Cornette buries Kenny King, and Kenny King outside of the BDC, I didn't see anything for him other than X Division champion and tag team champion. I didn't. I would have if he would have became world heavyweight champion. I would have supported it because he is a good wrestler. But I just never saw Kenny King as world heavyweight champion. Maybe in Ring of Honor, but not TNA, not TNA. And he was only going to be as pushed as far as the X Division title and the tag team titles. And when the Beatdown Clan left, there was really nothing left for Kenny King. So I'm kind of glad he left and returned to Ring of Honor with Rhett Titus as the tag team. Yeah, I just saw his return match with the Addiction. Awesome, and I think he will be much better in Global Force Wrestling, Jeff Jarrett's promotion, which I also heard he was signed to. So that's for all the haters of TA who criticize him because they didn't re-sign because Kenny King left him. Who cares if Kenny King left him? Like I said, he was never gonna really go that far in TNA. I never really saw him as main event material, and I just responded to all the people who criticized TNA for letting guys like AJ Styles and all the top names leave. And going back to AJ Styles and Daniels and them, one thing I cannot stand with TNA is this attitude, and I'm finally glad TNA did something about this, but I really wish they would have done something about this a long time ago, but they most recently did something about this. I am sick of this. I am sick of the TNA wrestlers. I enjoy TNA, but I really wish I was in the WWE. I am sick of that attitude. I am sick of that attitude. I'm finally glad TNA did something about that. And they chose not to re-sign Kazarian and Daniels because they were putting. I'm not saying bash and bury WWE like I do or like I would if I was in one of those interviews. But stop giving them so much praise and stop talking about jumping ship there, man. That's what I'm sick of. And TNA saw that and they chose not to re-sign these guys. These guys were getting older. They haven't really drawn much of anything in the several years they've been here. And yeah. So, yeah, TNA chose to let these guys go. And for all those people who were like, I saw this in a Bill and Doug's video. I saw a video with them talking about how much TNA sucks because they didn't re-sign AJ Styles. Look at where TNA is now. Yeah, they're on Destination America. If AJ Styles would have stayed, they would have still got canceled from Spike TV and be on Destination America and would still have pretty much most of the same viewers. They will still have most of the same viewers and will still have most of the same money. They will not be any different if AJ Styles was still here. So stop pretending that AJ Styles is one of TNA's biggest stars, but stop pretending that he is the Sting of TNA. He is the Sting. He's pushed like that, but he isn't. He was pushed like that, but he isn't. He is the Sting of TNA. Sting was hugely popular. Sting is a household name in wrestling, in and outside the ring. People know who the Stinger is. No one outside of the wrestling business or outside of the independents knows or cares who AJ Styles is. So I'm really sick of that. I'm really sick of that attitude that, oh, TNA sucks now, or TNA is going down the crapper because AJ Styles doesn't wrestle there anymore. And TNA manages to put on a good product without those guys, which goes to show you how good TNA is. They still manage to put on good wrestling products without guys like AJ Styles. AJ Styles and wrestlers like them. These guys, back when I used to argue with TNA fans, AJ Styles and them alone pretty much had owned the entire roster. Whatever matches these guys were featured in, they pretty much had owned the entire roster. That's when I used to go back, when I used to defend TNA from annoying WWE haters. AJ Styles, Daniels, and Joe and them alone used to own WWE. Alone. Owns every wrestler who wrestles in WWE except maybe Ziggler, Daniels, and Morrison. Yeah. Next is TNA being thrown off Spike TV. WWE has been thrown off of several networks. And then for all the TNA haters who kept saying, oh, Destination America, we're going to drop TNA, and Destination America makes all of you annoying TNA haters and WWE fanboys who were talking about Destination America dropping TNA, they make you look stupid by extending the date, and TNA is now extending the date until early 2016, and TNA is now negotiating with several networks, making all of you guys look dumb. But all you guys know is all these people saying, oh, they were going to drop Ring of Honor, and they were going to drop TNA for Ring of Honor, and they decided to drop the lead into Ring of Honor, Ring of Honor's 8 o'clock time slot, 8 o'clock time slot, and it only featured them in the 11 o'clock time slot, making all of you guys look dumb and just stupid, all you WWE haters. This is why TNA is good now. Like I said, they're not as good as the independents or international promotions like the Lucha Libre promotions and the Japanese promotions, particularly New Japan. They're not as good as, or British wrestling. They're not as good as these, because these are the promotions that have all the talent. This is where TNA gets their talent from. But one thing TNA has over all of those promotions, and Ring of Honor has this too, TNA is featured on primetime television. You don't have to get some subscription to a network like for New Japan or Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, or you don't have to tune in, you don't have to follow them on Facebook or tune in or go to their YouTube channel to watch their shows. You can watch it here on Destination. You can watch it on television on Destination America. That's one thing TNA has over all promotions. They're not as good as the other promotions because they just don't have the money to go out and get all this good talent that the WWE has. But they still for the talent they manage to get under their roof, they still put on good to decent products. So this was for all the people who said, oh, you couldn't do a video without bashing WWE, who I will be bashing them in the next video. But this right here was my okay, before I stop, one final thing I have a problem with was next focusing on former WWE stars. Booker T admits this, but guys like Booker T, Christian, and Kevin Nash, One thing I get sick of is when WWE was when WWE was when WWE fires several wrestlers, or when they leave TNA, they come to TNA, and TNA keeps them relevant for a while. Then they later decide to leave. When they leave TNA, they later decide to bash TNA. They later decide to bash TNA when TNA pretty much gave them all this money, gave them belts and stuff they didn't deserve. They didn't deserve. They didn't deserve. They didn't deserve. And they just straight up leave TNA. They just straight up leave TNA and criticize TNA in interviews. Like, big example, well, Christian, this guy couldn't get it done in WWE. He couldn't become a world heavyweight champion in WWE. So he came somewhere that was willing to make him world heavyweight champion, and that was TNA. That was TNA. Then a couple of years later, he returns to WWE and is now like ashamed of his TNA run. Christian, when he came to TNA, he pretty much killed TNA's product. TNA killed the entire roster just to push him. He, in my opinion, Christian, a lot of people like Christian as world heavyweight champion, but in my opinion, Christian was the worst and most undeserving TNA heavyweight champion. One of the worst and most undeserving TNA heavyweight champions. Then you got Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash, he never won the world heavyweight championship, but you just never needed him in TNA. Kevin Nash. The only time he was good was in late 2004 when him and Jeff Jarrett were doing the Kings of Wrestling, and in early 2005 when he was feuding with Diamond Dallas Page and Jeff Jarrett. After that, TNA should have parted ways with Kevin Nash. You didn't need him here. You didn't need him here. All he did was he didn't bury the X Division, but he just made them look. He just made it look like a joke. He just made them look stupid. It looked like a joke. Not really a huge fan of the X Division, but I'm a huge fan of their wrestlers, and I appreciate TNA. This is something everyone loved about TNA. Everyone loved about TNA. I appreciate TNA for going in 2011, going out and get all of these young and past X Division stars and reconfiguring the X Division, So that's another thing I love about TNA. Every criticism I ever had with this company, they always respond to every criticism I ever I have every criticism I've ever had. Then they give me things I don't ask for, such as Bobby Lashley, African American heavyweight champion, which in my opinion TNA should have done that years ago when they had Monty Brown on the roster. They instead gave it to Christian when they promised Monty Brown, but they gave it to Christian, and Monty Brown got mad and left for WWE, but they gave it to Christian. And Christian, the problem I had with Christian was a big star, which is why they put the title on him, but he was a mid-carder in WWE. He was not the reason you paid a ticket to go there. He was not the reason you paid a ticket to go to a WWE show. So you pretty much in TNA, you pretty much got Christian and said, hey, we got a mid-carder from WWE. We got a mid-carder from WWE. We got a mid-carder from WWE. We're trying to gas him up and present him as a main eventer here in TNA. Booker T, he admits it. Booker T admits that he was only in TNA. Booker T admits that he was only in TNA because he got fired from WWE, and I also remember back at the time when he was in TNA, he was trying to use TNA instead of being there to put wrestlers over, which he was brought in there to do. He was only there to get Hollywood. He was to try to break out. He was using TNA to try to break out in Hollywood, and then, well, since TNA wasn't that big, he decided to turn TNA down and return to WWE. Kevin Nash left unannounced and appeared at the Royal Rumble, then bashed TNA, then bashed TNA. I'm finally glad TNA got rid of all the former WWE wrestlers and pushed wrestlers who want to be there, who actually want to be in TNA. That's one of the other things that's good about TNA's roster now. Every wrestler who's in TNA now wants to be in TNA. I'm sick of this. I don't like wrestling in TNA, or I want to wrestle in WWE attitude. No, everyone in TNA wants to be in TNA. Every wrestler in TNA wants to be in TNA. So that's another thing I liked about TNA. Well, like I said, this was my and another thing about TNA now. I love their new Like I said, the old Asylum and early Impact Zone days, those were the best. Those were the best designs. But I love the Impact Zone design they have now. The Impact design they have now in 2000, in 2000, 15, in 2015, in 2015. It looks just like Thunder, WCW Thunder, and WWE SmackDown. This is the set design I want for WWE, just with a larger arena. But TNA has it. And then Bound for Glory had an even Bound for Glory this year had an even larger arena, and they have an even larger arena whenever they go to places like Europe, where they have this awesome arena. When they go to places like Europe, so TNA is just such a fun, awesome wrestling show to watch. Right now, it's not as good as the Indies, the Lucha Libre promotions, the British wrestling promotions in Japan, but a good promotion. I love the wrestlers that are like featured right here. Like I said, this was my salute of this was my defense of TNA and Ring of Honor. All right, dug out.